Yo, what's good, folkers? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in the world. This is Tyrus Bain. Welcome to the Definition of Anarchy channel. And today, I want to talk about why police are the problem in this country. Why policing, the system of policing in this country is the biggest problem. Well, one of the biggest problems we face in this country. What prompted me to want to speak on this is a video that Tatum did in regards to a police response to a domestic violence case, right? And he thought he was proving a point. And I'm going to say why he thought he was proving a point and why it makes sense for him to think that he was proving a point. And then I'm going to debunk that point, okay? Now, what happened was this woman was having domestic violence issues with her dude, right? And so she was ready to leave. She wanted to get out of there. She wanted to get out of the situation. And so what she did was she called the cops to just basically be around in case the dude showed up, right? Because she thought at any time the dude would show up. So she called the police so that they'll be there to protect her, basically, if the dude showed up. And what ended up happening was dude came in the front door, guns a-blazing, all right? Guns a-blazing, just started shooting up the spot, right? Shot two cops, you know what I'm saying? I don't think they passed away, but, they got shot, right? And let me tell you, man, the reason they got shot is because just the lack of vigilance, the lack of situational awareness, okay? The lack of situational awareness. They were probably properly trained, but they were lackadaisical, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link in the comment section, in the description, to the video that Brandon Tatum did, and he'll show the video there. So what happened was, they got shot, okay? Now, one cop was in a living room, dining room area, and the other cop was right in front of the door, between the woman who was standing at the stairs and the front door, okay? So, but this is the problem. He had his back to the door, and the door was not locked, okay? He had his back to the door was not locked. That was the first problem, okay? So, yes, if dude comes in, he knows the cops are there, and he ain't got nothing to lose, you put yourself in a bad position as a police officer. You're supposed to be on your P's and Q's. You're supposed to have situational awareness. You're supposed to be vigilant, okay? You're supposed to be watching that door. There should be at least one guy watching each exit, okay? One guy at each exit, you know what I'm saying? So if there's exit entrances, so if there's a front door, you got a guy posted at the front door, looking at the door, making sure dude just don't bust up in there, okay? And the door should have been locked. Locked, closed, and locked. Especially if she's telling you, look, this dude can come up at any time, and he's dangerous. He's violent, okay? But beyond that, let's talk about Brandon Tatum's point. Now, he mentioned his thing is he's harping on people saying that you should have social workers come take some of the calls, right? There should be a social worker there, as opposed to a police officer, because police officers don't know how to handle certain situations. And here's the problem with that. I agree to a degree. I agree to a certain degree. The problem with that is they weren't talking about situations like that, okay? Where dude has clearly displayed or has a history of violence, all right? They were talking about maybe a veteran with mental health issues, like the veteran that was killed with a knee on his neck that I talked about a couple weeks ago. They're talking about maybe a child who's ornery and needs some type of de-escalation. We're not talking about grown-ass, big-ass men who have a history of violence and is known to beat up on women. No, you respond to that in a different way. You're supposed to be on high alert. You're supposed to have somebody there who's armed, ready and willing to throw down and protect that woman. We're not talking about a social worker in that case. Okay. And so another point is, I believe it's in Colorado they started doing that. They started having social workers show up to certain calls, and it works like wonders. It's been working there in that state. In I think it's in Denver. Don't quote me on that. I forgot what city it was, but in this city they tried it. They said, okay, let's change things around a little bit. Let's do some more social work, community policing, things like that, where we're not just bringing armed, badged, bulletproofed men, standing around like they big shit. You know what I'm saying? Let's try something a little different. So they did that, and there's been a lot of success. Okay, there's been a lot of success in this town in Colorado. I believe it's Denver. Don't quote me on that. So there's been a lot of success. So it's not like it hasn't been proven to work. You understand? It's just there are certain cases that you have to do it on. Not every fucking case. All right, Brandon Tatum, let's get that straight. It's not every case that you want to have a social worker instead of a police officer. Okay, and so I don't know what point you were trying to prove. You don't send a social worker to somebody that has already committed that level of violence. Now, when you're talking about a veteran who gets upset and maybe throws some things at a wall and wakes up with cold sweats and having nightmares and just in distress, you know what I'm saying, mental distress, but never laid his hands on his wife, but maybe just talked about harming himself, maybe like, I can't take this anymore, I can't, these nightmares are getting on my nerves, I need to do something to myself to end these nightmares, I need to take myself out. Those are more along the lines of what you would have someone who has a certain level of training to deal with that certain thing. Cops don't have that. They're going to show up. They're going to say, oh, he's a veteran. He has PTSD. He might have a tendency towards violence. We're going to show up and we're trained to treat every suspect as the enemy, as a sworn enemy. Okay? So that's not what we're talking about, Brandon Tatum. We're not talking about a domestic violence, a man who just beats on a woman and, may be dangerous. Or that has proven himself or herself to be dangerous. Okay? We're not talking about in those situations. We're not talking about a social worker showing up to a gang, a shootout between two sets of gang members. We're not talking about that type of shit. Common sense will tell you, you don't send a social worker, an unarmed social worker, to a shootout or a standoff between gang members. No. But you don't send a cop to somebody's house when a child is acting out, or when a veteran with PTSD or anybody with PTSD is acting out. You don't do that. That's not what cops should be handling. So let's get that straight now in the open right now. Now, let me talk about why this leads me to the fact that police and the system of policing in this country, and all its members, right, of the police departments, why they're one of the biggest problems in this country. Okay? Because it creates a level of victimhood in the people that these police officers are supposed to protect. Supposedly, allegedly, they protect people. No, that's not what they're there to do. No, the Supreme Court already ruled that they do not have to serve and protect, and they have qualified immunity. They're the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems in this country, other than the elite class, right, who use the police officers to do their bidding. Right? Law enforcement. Let's just say law enforcement officers. All right? Including the FBI, ATF, all those evil organizations, right? Because let's face it, without law enforcement or policy enforcers, politicians, the elite class, they would be a minimal threat. They would not be a threat without henchmen to go out and do their bidding, to extort people, to lock people up, to enrich the prison industrial complex. So police officers are I would say, the biggest problem. Whereas Brandon Tatum thinks police officers are the greatest heroes in the country. He said that out of his mouth. All right? And it creates a level of victimhood in the people that these cops are around or are patrol, because they think, well, you know, we have these police officers. We don't need to worry about protecting and defending ourselves. We can just rely on the police officers to come in and save the day. Oh, the police are around. I don't need to learn how to use a firearm to protect myself. No, fuck that. I don't need to learn how to train to fight. I don't need to learn how to use a blade to defend myself against a violent person. So let's talk about this lady. What could have happened differently? All right. This woman, had she had the capability and the ability and the wherewithal and the will to defend herself with a firearm, right? Level the playing field. Yes, he had a firearm too. On the route. But every time he put his hands on her, she could have had the opportunity to deal with him right then and there, right? Maybe she, you know, had the shit under her pillow or under the mattress where she sleeps, and then this dude starts beating on her or whatever the case may be. She can run to it or go to it and pull it out and blast him. Of course, it takes a lot of training, because guess what? In the heat of the moment, when there's a violent individual trying to attack you, it's not like the movies where you're gonna do backflips and jump off the wall and fly through the air like a John Woo movie and shoot a motherfucker. No, you gotta train. So you can't. It's not just owning the firearm. You have to train how to use it. You have to train how to draw it. You got to put yourself through drills and situations, and scenarios, right? Train using scenarios where you're like, okay, he's coming in, he just hit me, and I'm going to pretend like I'm falling to the ground, then I'm going to run to this spot over here. I'm going to grab this gun, and I'm going to lay on the ground and turn around and blah, blah, blah. Because let's face it, man. You're a woman, and this dude's putting his hands on you. He could kill you just by putting his hands on you. Yes, a man can kill a woman with one blow. I know it to have happened. Okay, one blow. That's how much more powerful a man is than a woman physically. So you need that firearm to defend yourself. So dude puts his hands on you, boom. No, everyone would understand if you shot him in the face or shot him in the chest or whatever, shot him center mass. But you have to train. You have to train through that scenario. So, and it's obvious that this dude, it took some time, it took some buildup for him to respond to the police officers at his house with violent intent, murderous intent, to just run up in there and shoot at people. Because before, he probably wasn't no gun. He probably was just hitting on her. Or he probably had the gun and threatened her with it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the case may be. But if, and this is the thing, it's not just the police officers that create victims of people. It's these gun control laws where they say, you know, these law-abiding citizens can't own a firearm. They can't do this, they can't do that. So it discourages people from even wanting to go through the process. So that's another thing. You got the gun control mixed with the police officers. It gives people this sense of false security to where, like, they wouldn't even know what to do with themselves in a violent situation. But if it wasn't for gun control, and if it wasn't for the role police played in this country, if the illusion was not there that, oh, okay, so you just need to rely on the police to keep you safe. That's the biggest problem. Outside of their police officers' behavior itself, that's a whole nother can of worms. Police behavior, okay? But the idea that, you know, the police are this sanctioned group of people, this anointed, fairy dusted motherfuckers that can do whatever they want, and they have this qualified immunity. That is the biggest problem. If there was some level of accountability, if the police roles were clear cut, and if the role of the police was legitimate, then it would be less of a problem. If the police had to answer to the people, there would be less of a problem. What's the solution? What's the solution? What's the alternative to policing in this country today? Well, The police have to be held accountable by the people. It's as simple as that. You know, the police should not be a public force. The police should not have to answer to politicians. You know what I'm saying? It should not be just one police department. Oh, okay, it's the Chicago Police Department, and that's your only alternative. That's the biggest problem. There's no competition. There's no competition in regards to who gets to protect and serve you. You have to deal with the Chicago Police Department. You have to deal with the LAPD. You have to deal with the NYPD. But if there was competition, if they had to bid, and if they had to show, and if they had to, earn that position in your community, then guess what? It will be a little different. They wouldn't behave the way they do. They'll be more concerned about protecting the people as opposed to treating the people as the enemy or as lesser than. If the police were private, if it was a private police force as opposed to a public police force where you had multiple groups of security forces that had to compete with each other.
Right turn.
And then if they got the job, okay, they had to continue to bring about great service. Otherwise, they could be replaced by another security force. Private sector police, not even police, private sector security forces that are assigned to your city or town. That is the better alternative to public police.
Right turn ahead.
City police. Nah, bump that. Nah. Would there still be some level of corruption? Absolutely. There'll still be some level of corruption. But guess what? If their private security officer
your destination is ahead on the left.
were
Your destination is
caught
ahead on the left.
with his caught in his corruption, then boom, out of there, locked up, whatever. And then guess what? No qualified immunity is not going to protect that dude or that woman. Boom, that's the solution right there. You will not have the issue of corrupt police officers getting away with everything. You know what I mean? Oh my God, these people not a park. If we had private security forces, they'll be held accountable by the people in that community. It would be, we would have to have a panel of, private citizens that oversaw the policing. Not a corrupt ass mayor, not a corrupt ass commissioner. No. And that's much better. You know what I'm saying? Like when we need to build a bridge, the government, they don't build the bridge. They hire a private contractor, okay, to build that bridge. And guess what? If that private contractor fucks up, they got to pay. They got to pay penalties. They have to compete for the work. And if they don't do a great job while they're building that bridge, they can be replaced as part of the contract. You see, the police officers, they don't have a contract with the people. That's what they need. They need a contract with the people, not the motherfucking city functionaries, not the government functionaries. When you put the government functionaries in charge of policing in this country, then you have the problem, okay? And that's why when, like in Chaz Chopped, when these motherfuckers ran through the neighborhood terrorizing the people and saying, no, we own this motherfucker now, and the police turned their back on them. You know why the police turned their back on them? Because the mayor said, no, leave it alone. Don't do nothing. Don't move until we say move. See, when you leave the mayor in charge of the police department, think about that. That's what you get. Anyway, but if the people were in charge of that security force, ain't no mayor gonna be able to do that. The mayor's not gonna be able to do that. They're gonna protect those people that they were contracted to protect, contracted with the people to protect. All right. That is the solution to policing in this country. Anyway, that's as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, much love. Like, share, subscribe. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Am I tripping? Or do I sound like I make a little bit of sense? Is public police the only alternative? Or are there other options that we need to be able to present to others and whatnot? Y'all let me know, man. Or do you think that defund the police is about sending social workers to deal with violent ass men that beat on their women, or is it more to do with people who are really suffering from mental health issues? All right, y'all let me know in the comment section. Much love. Peace out.